What happens when the ultimate arbiter of a nation's laws decides that the rules no longer apply to the people who write them? On May 19, 2026, a scene unfolded on Capitol Hill that many seasoned political observers are calling a definitive turning point in the modern history of American governance. It was a day where the line between public service and private loyalty didn't just blur, it was completely erased on live television. At the center of this geopolitical and constitutional firestorm stood Todd Blanche, the acting Attorney General of the United States. To his supporters, he is a vanguard of a new political era. To his detractors, he was described by one Democratic lawmaker as nothing less than a consigliere acting on behalf of an aspiring autocrat. Blanche found himself under withering, relentless questioning from lawmakers over a radical, wholesale structural replacement. For over 50 years, the Department of Justice operated under a foundational, albeit imperfect, mission to uphold the rule of law uniformly, both within the borders of the United States and as a symbol of institutional stability around the world. But on this day, the testimony revealed a massive shift, realigning the immense apparatus of federal law enforcement to do the bidding of private political interests. The epicenter of this debate revolves around a staggering figure, a $1.8 billion settlement. This isn't just an abstract bureaucratic number. This is money funded directly by everyday taxpayers. And according to the architecture of this new settlement, those very taxpayer dollars will now be used to compensate individuals who claim to have been wronged by the Justice Department, the self-proclaimed victims of what the current administration terms institutional weaponization. During the hearings, Senator Chris Van Hollen leveled a blistering critique, calling the initiative an outrageous, unprecedented slush fund. The tension reached a boiling point when Van Hollen asked a deceptively simple question: will individuals who violently assaulted Capitol Hill police officers be eligible to receive cash payouts from this multi-billion-dollar fund? Blanche's response sent shockwaves through the chamber. He stated plainly that anyone in the country is eligible to apply if they subjectively believe they were a victim of weaponization. When pressed to establish a hard rule to bar violent felons or those who assaulted law enforcement from getting a financial reward, the acting Attorney General balked, deflecting the responsibility to a 5-member commission of whom he personally appoints. This is the threshold of a new paradigm where actions that once threatened the very fabric of the state are no longer just pardoned. They are potentially incentivized. To truly understand the geopolitical and societal risk of this moment, we have to look at the precedent it establishes on a global scale. Throughout history, the stability of a republic relies on a singular concept: the deterrent effect of criminal justice. If you break the law, if you attempt to subvert an election, or if you assault the officers protecting the legislature, you face punitive consequences. But what happens when that equation is turned entirely upside down? During the testimony, lawmakers brought forward specific, harrowing case studies to highlight the absurdity of an open-ended restitution fund. One name entered into the congressional record was Andrew Paul Johnson. Johnson is currently serving a sentence of life in prison for heinous crimes involving the molestation of minors. According to investigative reports by NPR, when Johnson was arrested in connection with his actions surrounding the January 6 Capitol riots, he attempted to buy the silence of the children he abused by promising them a share of the millions of dollars in restitution money he confidently expected to receive from the administration. When confronted with this reality, the acting Attorney General accused lawmakers of lying, claiming the fund didn't exist when those statements were made. Yet, critics point out that the administration had been telegraphing the creation of this fund to their inner circle for months. This points to a deeply troubling structural reality. In a defense of the fund, Blanche asserted that the scope of the payouts is entirely unlimited. It is not limited to a specific political party, nor is it legally bound by traditional definitions of state-level victimization. But this open-ended framework reveals a stark double standard. While the administration claims that anyone can apply, the actual mechanism of approval rests entirely in the hands of hand-picked commissioners. When independent legal experts look at the landscape, they ask, what about former FBI Director James Comey, who argued he was the victim of a vindictive prosecution? What about civil rights organizations or lawmakers investigated under political pressure? Will their claims be granted? The consensus is a resounding no. The systemic consequence here is profound. When individuals are told that committing a crime in the name of a political leader will result not only in a total presidential pardon, but also in the prospe court of cashing in on those crimes, the concept of legal deterrence crumbles. It effectively creates a state-sanctioned financial reward for institutional chaos. As shocking as the multi-billion-dollar restitution fund is, an even more monumental revelation broke just hours after the congressional testimony wrapped up. Documents leaked to major investigative outlets like Politico and the New York Times revealed that the Department of Justice had quietly expanded its settlement agreement with Donald Trump. This hidden aspect of the deal wasn't included in the initial public court filings. It is contained within a one-page document signed by Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, and its contents represent an unprecedented shift in the balance of power between the presidency and financial accountability. The document explicitly bars the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS, from ever pursuing a tax audit of Donald Trump, his immediate family, or his sprawling network of family businesses. For a decade, the concept of the presidential tax audit was a lightning rod in American politics. Back in 2016, a standard audit was the primary defense used to justify withholding tax returns from public scrutiny. Now, by entering into a permanent legal settlement, the Department of Justice has granted a blanket, lifetime immunity from federal tax oversight to a single political family. Legal scholars and career civil servants are calling this a profound betrayal of the public trust. The document is structured as a sweeping release of claims. It doesn't just stop future tax audits. It appears to completely forfeit any right the United States government has to bring future lawsuits against Donald Trump or his corporate entities for any prior liability or misappropriation of funds. Think about the geopolitical implications of this move. If a future administration, 5 or 10 years from now, uncovers systemic financial misconduct or the illegal diversion of taxpayer funds, their hands will be legally tied. This settlement acts as an armor-clad shield against future prosecution. It represents a level of elite impunity that resembles a financial oligarchy rather than a constitutional republic. The Justice Department, which has a fiduciary duty to safeguard the financial assets of the American taxpayer, has instead used its authority to sign away the public's right to accountability. Every system of government, no matter how powerful, relies on the integrity of the individuals who operate the levers of power behind the scenes. But when the pressure to comply with political edicts overrides statutory law, the institutions begin to fracture from within. This fracture became undeniable when the Wall Street Journal reported the sudden, dramatic resignation of the Treasury Department's top lawyer, Brian Morrissey, a respected legal figure who had previously clerked for Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas and served in various high-level capacities within the Justice Department, resigned immediately following the announcement of this controversial settlement. Why did a top-tier conservative legal mind walk away from the apex of his career? According to insiders, Morrissey reached a definitive breaking point. The rule of law requires a foundational principle. Similarly situated individuals must be treated equally under the law. In federal courts across the country, The Justice Department is actively fighting the claims of ordinary citizens who experience tax data leaks, arguing that their demands for financial compensation are entirely without legal or factual merit. Yet, in the case of Donald Trump, the department bypassed all standard protocols to create a customized, multi-billion-dollar payout and audit immunity package for a rigorous legal mind, advising an agency to execute a protectual settlement that violates the principle of equal treatment under the law was an ideological step too far. This internal rebellion highlights a larger trend, while top-ranking officials look the other way. The political fallout is beginning to reverberate through the halls of Congress. Even loyal opposition figures are expressing deep trepidation. The realization that almost $2 billion in taxpayer money is being diverted into a secretive fund at a time when everyday citizens are struggling with rising energy costs, inflation, and economic instability is a tough pill to swallow for the electorate. Yet, the greatest danger doesn't lie in the sheer volume of wealth being transferred. It lies in the normalization of deceit. When an entire political apparatus accepts a false narrative without a shred of empirical evidence, the very nature of objective truth is compromised as we look at the global stage. History teaches us that republics rarely fall to external invasion alone. They erode from within, one compromised institution at a time, one secret settlement at a time, until the architecture of justice becomes nothing more than a tool to protect the powerful and punish the powerless. The events of May 19, 2026 are not merely a domestic political story, they are a textbook study in how the rule of law can be quietly, legally, and permanently dismantled. If you found this deep dive into institutional power and geopolitical accountability valuable, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so you never miss our long-form analysis of the hidden forces shaping global current affairs. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. How do you think this settlement impacts the future of institutional trust globally? Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next deep dive.